Progressive but can be improved. That's what Singapore's prominent bloggers say about the recommendations put out by the Advisory Council on the Impact of New Media on Society, or AIMS. 13 of them submitted their own report to the government in April, and the group explained the rationale behind their proposals to the media today. More from Imelda Saad.
They represent some of the hottest blogs among Singapore's online community. Calling themselves the Bloggers 13, they poured through the AIMS report with a fine-tooth comb. They say the report, while forward-looking, was silent on several aspects.
We think that AIMS should have given more emphasis on the principled reasons why there should be deregulation. We think that it's important to have free speech, and our regulations should reflect that.
And given the borderless nature of the internet, the group says it cannot be governed. So instead of a formal regulation by the Media Development Authority of Singapore, the proposal is to let the online community moderate themselves. The bloggers are also pushing for a repeal of Section 33 of the Films Act, which bans political films. They say it's not practical given that such films can find their way on video sharing sites like YouTube. Responding to the bloggers' proposals, AIMS said that it will take it as feedback to be considered in finalizing its report. The council also adds that in many ways it agrees with the bloggers on the general direction to take. The question is in the pace of change. For some, the government is seen as playing catch-up with the tremendous speed at which the internet is changing.
Just like the states, the bloggers are also addressing real issues, complex issues, the interests of the state as a collective interest, and the interests of the bloggers. Also, they are not just talking about bloggers' interests, they are talking about Singaporean interests.
You can give your feedback on the AIMS report at this website.
Well, Imelda joins me now in the studio to talk more about the group's recommendations. And we also have Alex Au, editor of yawningbread.org. Alex is a member of Bloggers 13, which submitted their own recommendations to the government less than 5 months ago. Let me start, Alex. Now, what kind of online community landscape are the bloggers that you represent are hoping to see here?
Well, we hope to see a situation whereby there is much less regulation, really light touch, just prosecuting only the most egregious cases. But in everything else, people use their own common sense and watch out for each other to establish certain standards.
So Alex, you mentioned that people using their own common sense. You're advocating also a community approach to moderating the internet and internet forums. Tell us the thinking behind that.
We feel that in this process of educating the public, they shouldn't be just passive receivers of education. There's something that's known as learning by doing. And it's when people have to take responsibility for their own actions and are free to comment on what is right or wrong about what somebody else has said, that's when they realize or learn the ropes of what is the right kind of constructive speech. That's why it's important.
Yeah. But if it's not the MDA or the Media Development Authority monitoring or policing what's happening online, who then?
That's the problem. See, so long as you have somebody policing and monitoring, no one else takes responsibility. That's why it's really important for the government to take a back seat, pull back, and let natural responsibility flower on its own. It may sound counterintuitive right now, but really lots of other countries have relatively free internet systems, and they seem to get by. So do you think Singaporeans are less responsible or more stupid? I don't think so.
Well, Alex, in your group's report, it also mentions that the government needs to take online citizens' views more seriously. Are you getting a sense that it's not? I mean, where is that kind of sense coming from?
I think it also comes out in the AIMS consultative paper, where they said something, where they devoted a whole chapter on e-engagement. There seems to be this widespread feeling that the government is not sure what to do with online opinions. Sometimes they, speak about it in relatively negative terms, and we all get the impression that nobody's listening to us or nobody cares to listen to us. And this distancing of citizens and government cannot be good for Singapore in the long term. So the government needs to show some engagement, and the citizens need to learn some skills in speaking to the government.
Just picking up from that, another interesting point that came out at the earlier news conference, one of the bloggers mentioned that it's only then that
online citizens or netizens, as they call it, will be engaging the government and talking with the government than talking amongst themselves.
Yes, that is the scenario that we would like to see, and I think that's what AIMS would like to see too, from my reading of the report. And we hope the government also feels that that's the the goal that we should be reaching. How do we get there? Well, that's of course the billion-dollar question. But we have to start somewhere, and that means each side has to show some sincerity and start a process of engaging and learn how to do it through practice.
Now, another thing that the group is advocating for is a neutral platform for laws. Explain that.
Okay, what we are saying is that the digital media is just becoming a part of life. And we shouldn't be having different regulatory standards and different laws applying to different media, be it print, broadcast, internet, and so forth. So we are saying apply the same rules across the board. Now, what we dislike about the present digital landscape is that the MDA has a separate set of rules for the internet, a code of practice and so forth. And really this is a very untenable situation going forward. We feel that the same laws of race and the penal code on racial and religious hate speech, on defamation should apply the same, and there should be no extra rules pertaining to the internet.
Well, if I may have the last question. Alex, now of all the proposals that you've made in that document you've submitted to AIMS, now which is the one proposal that you hope the government will incorporate in its final report? Process liberalization and transparency. The thing that's totally wrong about the present arrangement is that the MDA has all these powers. They tend to act behind a veil of the Official Secrets Act. There is no transparency, and that situation is the opposite of what is needed to build trust with the citizenry. When you act in an arbitrary, discretionary way behind a wall of silence, you shouldn't be surprised that people distrust and people get cynical about it. So they have to open up the transparency of that process. Well, Alex, thank you very much. And Imelda Sa, the reporter on this story, thank you very much also for joining us in studio today.